Ever find yourself like sprinting for cover when your weather app's like completely clueless about some sudden downpour?
Yeah, I know that feeling.
It's the worst. But good news, maybe. AI is getting ready to like totally change how we predict and deal with weather. So today we're doing a deep dive into all that.
Sounds good.
We've got a bunch of research and articles here.
That's cool.
And we're gonna like break down how AI is transforming everything. So from like those everyday forecasts to, prepping for like those major weather events.
And ones where you got to hunker down.
Exactly. Yeah. So what's really interesting to me is we've all heard about AI's potential, but what are we like actually seeing happening right now? Like what specific things are making this a reality?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things is AI's ability to just tackle this huge amount of weather data.
Right.
Imagine all the information that's like constantly coming in from satellites and radar systems and all the ground sensors and weather balloons.
And like a fire hose.
It's mind-boggling. Even teams of like the best meteorologists, they just can't process all that data fast enough.
Yeah, to make those like really precise, up to the minute predictions.
Exactly. So AI is like the ultimate data cruncher.
So it's not about like replacing human forecasters or anything. It's like giving them this tool that can handle this information overload.
Yeah, it's like AI steps in and it can analyze these huge data sets and then it can like spot these subtle patterns that people might miss.
Okay.
Like, for example, AI could detect sudden temperature changes across thousands of data points.
Okay.
And those changes might mean that there's an unexpected storm coming.
Oh, wow.
Which gives us like an early warning.
That's incredible. So, but AI isn't just about like processing power, right? It's also about learning and adapting. So how does AI actually like learn how to predict the weather?
Right. That's where it gets really interesting. So the traditional forecasting models that we have are really useful, but they've always relied on historical data and these simulations. So it's kind of like using an old map to navigate a new city. You might get like a general idea.
The lay of the land.
Yeah. But you're going to hit some surprises.
For sure. So how does AI like break free from that?
It uses machine learning.
Huh.
So unlike those traditional models, AI doesn't just use static data, it actively learns from past weather events. So it's analyzing what happened, and then it's refining its understanding of how these weather systems work.
Oh, wow. So it's like a forecasting model that's just always getting smarter.
Yeah.
Learning from its mistakes and, fine-tuning.
Exactly.
On like real experience.
Real world experience, exactly.
That's a huge jump. So how is that like actually, having a good effect? Can you give me some examples of how that's playing out in like actual forecasting?
Yeah, one big area we're seeing improvement in is predicting hurricane paths.
Yeah.
So AI is giving us more accuracy and more lead time.
Oh, wow.
Which is really important, for communities to prepare or evacuate.
Yeah, that extra time could be life or death. Wow. So, and it's not just like these huge weather events, right? It's like everyday forecasts are getting better too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So AI-powered weather apps are already giving us like hyper-local and real-time updates. Yeah. It's way beyond just telling you if you need an umbrella.
Right.
Like imagine getting a little alert on your phone that there's a sudden thunderstorm or a heat wave.
Right. So you can actually take precautions.
Yeah.
It's like having a personalized weather assistant in your pocket.
Right.
Constantly analyzing the data.
Totally.
And giving you like, insights to make decisions.
Exactly.
Speaking of like real-time information, what about those really unpredictable events like flash floods? Those can be terrifying, and they often catch people completely off guard.
Yeah, that's where AI's ability to analyze like all sorts of different data is super helpful.
Okay.
So it can combine real-time rainfall measurements with data on river levels and terrain.
Okay.
And then pinpoint the areas that are most at risk for flooding, sometimes even hours before it happens.
So instead of being reactive, we can be proactive.
Yes.
Get those warnings out so people can protect their homes and businesses.
Exactly.
Before the water hits.
Yeah. And this isn't just for floods.
Okay.
AI is being used to track all kinds of extreme weather, especially tornadoes and hurricanes.
Yeah, those two cause the most damage.
Right.
Now, this is like really interesting to me. These are storms that like develop so fast.
Yeah.
Leaving very little time to react. So how's AI like helping us get ahead of those?
So think of AI as like this super-powered storm spotter. It's constantly scanning the data for these little signs that humans might miss.
Like early warning signs.
Right. So by analyzing wind patterns and pressure changes and temperature fluctuations, things that happen before you can even see the storm on a radar,
Okay.
AI can alert us to potential threats, like hours or even days ahead of time.
It's just not just about seeing the storm brewing. It's like detecting the conditions that could cause a storm.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's incredible.
That's an amazing level of foresight.
And it's already having a real impact. Like there are actual cases of AI predicting tornadoes forming hours before they actually touch down,
Wow.
giving people time to take cover. Imagine all the lives that could be saved.
It's almost unbelievable. Like, it makes you wonder what else AI will be able to predict in the future.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Totally. But beyond just predicting the storm, AI is also playing a big role in how we respond to those events, especially in those critical first hours and days after a disaster.
So it's not just about forecasting. It's about using AI to make, like, emergency response efforts more effective.
Exactly. Like, let's say a hurricane hits.
Oh, right.
In the past, trying to figure out the damage and where to send help was really slow and chaotic.
Right.
Now imagine using AI to analyze real-time data from satellites, drones, and even social media to know exactly where to send rescue teams and supplies.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. So instead of like waiting on, delayed information,
Right.
we can have a data-driven view of what's happening.
Right. So we can get help to those in need much faster.
Exactly.
It's like having this real-time emergency response coordinator.
Yeah.
Amazing. But it's not just about, reacting to these immediate disasters.
Right.
AI is also helping us to, like, understand and prepare for the long-term effects of climate change.
Absolutely. And when we think about climate change, we often think about like mitigating the causes.
Yeah. Which is important, of course.
Yeah.
But AI is giving us these tools to adapt to the changes that are already happening.
Right. And to prepare for future challenges.
So we're not just talking about tomorrow's forecast. We're looking ahead years, even decades into the future.
Yeah.
So what kind of, like, insights is AI giving us there?
One of the most exciting areas is like modeling future climate scenarios.
Okay.
So AI can process huge amounts of data like historical weather patterns and greenhouse gas emissions and land use changes.
Oh, wow.
And then it can create really detailed projections of what our climate might look like.
So instead of just speculating about the potential impacts, we can actually start to, like, visualize them
Exactly.
in a much more concrete way.
Yes, and then that lets us make better decisions about how to adapt.
Okay.
Like, for example, if those AI models show that a region's going to have more droughts in the next few decades, we can start planning now.
So things like water conservation.
Right. Or drought-resistant crops.
Even maybe relocation strategies.
Yeah.
It's like having a crystal ball that gives us a glimpse into the future
Right.
and lets us be proactive. Now, we've been talking about AI in this kind of abstract way, but I want to hear some real-world examples.
Sure.
Are there, like, specific AI tools or platforms being used already?
Oh, yeah, definitely. There are quite a few.
Oh, okay.
One is IBM's Watson platform. A lot of people probably remember that from what it won on Jeopardy.
Oh, yeah.
But Watson's not just a trivia whiz.
Okay.
It's being used for weather forecasting, too.
So Watson is trading in its trivia crown for a meteorologist's hat.
Pretty much.
So how's it being used specifically?
IBM is using Watson's machine learning to analyze massive weather data sets to make forecasts more accurate,
Okay.
especially those really short-term predictions that are so hard to get right.
So it's like having Watson as your personal weather advisor.
Yeah.
Cool. What other examples are there?
Another big one is Google's DeepMind.
Okay.
They're doing some really advanced work on predicting rain and snow using radar data. Their goal is to give us almost instant updates on when and where it's going to rain or snow.
Talk about real-time information.
I know, it's amazing.
It's so cool to see these tech companies working on this.
Yeah. And it's not just the big companies, they're smaller ones too.
Oh, okay.
Like Flood AI.
Yeah.
They're specifically using AI to help governments predict and manage flood risks.
Okay.
So they're making tools to predict which areas are most likely to flood so we can do better evacuations.
Right, and use resources more effectively.
Exactly.
That's so important, especially with all the climate change-related flooding.
It is.
What about those AI-powered drones?
Oh, yeah. Those are being used for weather, too.
So are they being used in weather-related stuff as well?
Absolutely. Drones are becoming so important for gathering weather data, especially in those really hard-to-reach places.
Like hurricane zones.
Right.
Imagine sending a drone right into the heart of a storm.
To get data on wind speed and temperature and pressure.
Yeah. It's like having a weather observer right in the middle of the action.
Exactly.
We can see what's happening inside those storms.
And all that data that the drone collects is then used by AI models to make the forecasts even better.
And hopefully get us even earlier warnings.
Yeah,
So we're seeing AI being used across the board in weather.
I know.
From everyday forecasts to tracking hurricanes, to managing flood risks, to gathering data in extreme conditions.
It's incredible.
It's truly a revolution in how we understand and interact with the weather.
I completely agree. It's such an exciting time to be following this field.
Yeah,
I think the next decade is going to be full of even more groundbreaking stuff.
I think so too. Okay, so we've covered a lot today. We've talked about how AI is analyzing data, improving forecasts, providing real-time updates, and even helping us prepare for and respond to disasters. But I want to step back for a minute
Okay.
and ask the bigger question. Why does all this even matter?
That's a great question. At the end of the day, AI is about more than just making forecasts more accurate.
Right.
It's about empowering us to make better decisions when things are uncertain and protect lives and property.
Right.
And build more resilient communities.
Especially as we face more extreme weather.
Yeah.
So it's not just about knowing if you need a jacket or not.
Exactly. It's about having the information and the tools to actually make smart choices.
That could save lives
Right.
and reduce damage.
AI is giving us the ability to go from being reactive to the weather to being proactive.
So we can anticipate those risks and
Yeah.
take steps to mitigate them.
Exactly. And respond more effectively when things do happen.
It's about going from fear and helplessness to, knowledge and preparedness.
Yeah.
That's so important. And it's not just about individuals. It's about governments and organizations using this technology too.
Absolutely.
To make us all safer. Imagine a future where we can predict and prepare for floods and hurricanes and tornadoes with so much accuracy and lead time.
It's an incredible thought.
That's the world we're moving towards with AI. But before we get too excited, we have to acknowledge that there are still challenges.
Right. Go.
No technology is perfect, and AI is no exception.
Yeah. Like any powerful tool, AI needs to be developed responsibly. We need to be really careful about the quality of the data that's being used to train these models.
Okay.
And we need to make sure everyone has access to these tools. It doesn't matter where you live or, your economic status.
That's a great point.
We don't want a situation where only certain people get these benefits.
Right. We need to make sure everyone is included.
Exactly. And we also need to be careful about becoming too reliant on AI. We can't forget about human expertise and judgment. Especially when it comes to those big decisions like evacuations.
Absolutely.
AI should help us.
Not replace us.
Exactly.
It's about that balance between humans and technology.
Yeah. AI can give us amazing insights and tools, but at the end of the day, it's up to us to use them wisely.
I like that. To use them wisely and ethically.
Right. It's a really interesting field, and it's changing so fast.
Yeah.
It's going to be fascinating to see how all of these ethical and societal questions play out as AI changes the way we think about and interact with the weather.
So it sounds like we're entering this whole new era of, weather management, where we're not just watching it happen, but we're actually shaping it.
Yeah.
Using AI to, understand, predict, and maybe even influence these huge forces of nature.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way to put it. And it gets at what's so exciting about all this. We're not just talking about small improvements in forecasting. We're talking about a total change in our relationship with the weather.
Yeah. Earlier you mentioned using AI to actually influence weather patterns.
Right.
That sounds like science fiction to me.
I know.
Can you talk about that a little more? What kind of research is happening there?
It's definitely one of the more futuristic and kind of controversial areas of research.
Okay.
But more people are looking into it. So some scientists are trying to see if we can use AI to manipulate the atmosphere in a very controlled way.
Oh, wow.
Maybe to steer hurricanes away from people or make it rain in places with droughts.
That's wild. It sounds like we'd be weather gods.
I know. It's a really powerful idea. And it comes with a lot of ethical and practical issues. But the point is that AI is opening up these brand new possibilities that we never could have imagined before.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot today. From the technical stuff about how AI is used in forecasting to the, bigger societal and ethical impacts.
Right.
So as we wrap up, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from this whole deep dive?
I'd say don't just accept the weather forecast. Really engage with it. Use all the tools you have, whether it's an AI weather app or government alerts or, long-range climate predictions.
To stay informed and make good decisions.
Exactly.
So it's about becoming more weather aware and prepared, not just for tomorrow, but for the future too.
Yeah, and that means more than just knowing if you need an umbrella. It's about understanding how powerful the weather is and respecting that it can be unpredictable.
And then taking steps to protect ourselves and our communities and the planet from those impacts.
Exactly.
That's a great point. We've talked about how AI is making weather forecasts faster, more accurate, and more useful than ever before. But it's more than just knowing if you need a jacket. It's about saving lives and protecting communities and adapting to a changing climate. As we wrap up our deep dive today, we'll leave you with this. What if, with AI, we could make a future where weather disasters aren't inevitable but preventable? It's a big idea, but it's one worth thinking about. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay curious.